The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios.
Hi, this is Mia Mosinzia, also known as Mia No Time for Love. Check out my latest book, Missing, available in print and ebook formats on Amazon.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartradio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international war-wearing author Mia Mosinzia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosinzia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosinzia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today at 4 Goes Missing by Mia Mosinzia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartradio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple, Podbean, and Apple Music, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, makes great gifts 24/7. Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, phone cases, hoodies, and a lot of great merchandise. Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia. Check it out today. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you give generously today. We're here with a terrific gentleman who is a psychotherapist, international activist, and a recognized educator and award-winning writer and expert on Vietnam veterans, survivors, activists, and pilgrims. We'll be talking about that. He's dedicated 40 years of his life to helping veterans heal from their experiences of war, and also an expert on PTSD and moral injury. We'll talk more about that. He's also trained staff, taught and worked with wounded warriors at Department of Defense and VA facilities in universities, colleges, hospitals, healthcare, and community centers all across the nation and globally as well, overseas. And he's also got a book called Coming Home in Vietnam, his first major poetry collection. He also has some other books called Warrior's Return, War in the Soul, and the Practice of Dream Healing. We'll talk about those. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studio, somewhere in beautiful outside of Amherst, Massachusetts, somewhere in New England. Ladies and gentlemen, the very multi-talented author of Coming Home in Vietnam, Dr. Edward Tick. Dr. Edward, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, and Happy New Year, Mike. And thank you very much for having me and for your generous introduction.
Well, it's great to have you on board as well, too. I mean, you've got an amazing story to tell, that you're a psychotherapist, international activist, and also recognized educator and award-winning writer, expert on Vietnam veterans, survivors, activists, and also pilgrims as well. And you dedicated 40 years of your life to helping veterans heal from their experience of war, and expert on PTSD and moral injury. You also trained staff, taught and worked with wounded warriors and veterans at Department of Defense, VA facilities around the nation and overseas. And you also got a book called Coming Home in Vietnam, which is a book of poetry. And before getting to all that, Dr. Ed, tell us how you actually first got started.
Well, I first got started writing poetry when I was a kid. So I actually remember a couple of poems I wrote in 6th grade. I won't recite them because they're really 6th grade poems.
I forgot my 6th grade poems, not even the 5th or 4th grade.
But I really remember a couple. And so I fell in love with poetry and literature when I was young. And by the time I was 15, I was writing it seriously, reading it seriously, and determined that no matter what else I would do in life, I was going to write poetry and prose and kind of write my way through life. And so writing, as you know, I'm a poet and a nonfiction writer. Writing has been one of my most important tools for exploring the work that unfolds in my profession, for sharing it and expressing it to others. Also, honestly, for cleansing myself. Because as you shared, I have been working with war and violent trauma survivors for over 40 years. That stuff penetrates our minds and hearts and souls when we're exposed to it. Not as strongly as it does if we're on the front lines, of course, but the stories we hear and the images we hear really get in there, and they get frozen inside us unless we have a way of expressing them and sharing them and cleaning them out. So writing poetry and prose also helps me do that. So I've been writing my whole life, and I didn't know I would write about this. The other half of your question is, how did I begin working with veterans and why? And we could spend the whole hour on that, but I will condense the story. I'm 70 years old. I know I don't look it, but it's true. I turned.
You look great for 70, by the way. So
thank you very much. Pour it on, my friend. So thank you for that. I actually feel great for 70. But it's also the work, really. It is true that we are as young as we feel, and that the more we stay young, vital, active with work that's really meaningful, that keeps our energy and our spirits alive. And so that really helps me keep going. And now I continue to work with veterans as much as I did before, but my generation of the Vietnam generation is getting older, and they've mellowed out, or they've healed, or they've given up. So I work quite extensively now with veterans of our sandbox wars, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, and Bosnian veterans, and veterans of our secret operations. So I'm still doing the work. It's quite as relevant, or even as now, as it was for the Vietnam generation. Unfortunately, the wars don't stop. We pass them on to the next generation. But how I got started was, I honestly, and I share this with veterans, I don't hide any of my history. Veterans know when we're telling the truth or when we're trying to hide something. They really have what they call I'm not supposed to say this on the radio, a BS meter. They really do. So they know, they can feel if the person that they're with is of integrity and being honest with them, or playing the game, or just, doing the professional job. So I use my history and I share it with them when they want to know. And this also becomes a healing force. So I love our warriors. I've dedicated my life to helping them. And I was against the Vietnam War, and I was protesting it at the time. I went to college in 1968, the height of the war. The very first year I had a student deferment. When people went to college during the Vietnam War, we had a draft. That's been gone since that war, so people don't even know this history. But those in college had a deferment from the draft until they graduated. I had a deferment for the first year, and then because of the politics of the time, mostly minorities and the poor were being sent to Vietnam and dying in much higher numbers. And so there was so much protest against that as an unfair system that the deferments were done away with. And then the government instituted a lottery system, which was, we pull birthdays out of a hat, and whatever number you get, that's when you're in line to go into the military, into Vietnam.
Wow.
As it turned out, I got a high number.
Ooh.
I was protesting the war. I was deeply concerned about what I would do. I was applying for a conscientious objector, which means I would give alternative service instead of going into the military. And I had decided if I have to go to Vietnam, the only way I could go would be as a medic to try to help and heal instead of take life. And it's in my family. My godfather, my mother's only siblings, so my uncle and godfather was a medic at the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And he came home a holy wreck, really. They didn't have the diagnosis PTSD at the time, but he had a very severe case of what they would call shell shock in World War I. He was terrified and nervous and shaking his whole life, talking like this. So he's my godfather. So that got planted in me. Then it came time for Vietnam. I didn't believe in the war, but I love our troops and I believe in service. In fact, I believe in universal service, that we all have to somehow give back to the country. And then I got a high lottery number and didn't have to serve. Okay. So I kept protesting the war during college. And fast forward, 1975 is the year the war ended, and the year I finished my master's degree in psychology and began as a psychotherapist in a rural town in central New York State. And Vietnam veterans started to come into my practice. What do you know? Post-traumatic stress disorder was not even a recognized diagnosis until 1980. There was not even a name for the invisible wound that they had. And at the time, nobody knew how to treat them. There was no literature on the subject. Friends and colleagues said, don't. They're too dangerous and they're crazy and they might go off on you and you're going to get hurt. You don't know what you're doing. Nobody knows what you're doing with them. And I thought, are you crazy? Are you crazy? They're our country's warriors. Even if the war was wrong, they're our warriors and they need to be brought home carefully in the right way. And nobody's doing this. And I didn't have to serve. Now I can. This can be my alternative service. And I couldn't be a medic in the war. And God saved me from that. Thank you. I can work to be the best home front doc I can possibly be and tend their war wounds, their invisible psychological wounds at home in this way. So that's how it began. That was back in the mid 1970s, 76, 77, when I began this. PTSD was not a diagnosis until 1980. By then I had been working with them for 4 or 5 years and had lots of experience and was working with not only individually with veterans, but also with with Vietnam Veterans of America and the volunteer veteran groups in my region, helping and supporting them, teaching them about war wounding. We created crisis intervention teams for veterans who had flashbacks and meltdowns and were in danger of doing violence, to intervene before they hurt themselves or anybody. And that was my start.
That was rather interesting. And what was this all groundbreaking to you when it came to starting these intervention, counseling and everything like that? Was this like a groundbreaking, or were you following some kind of model in terms of trying to help these veterans? It sounds like you had a really unique plan you had that no one else was able to duplicate.
You're right. I had a unique plan for several reasons. And thank you for that question. I'm actually still doing groundbreaking work, which will bring us to my new book, Coming Home in Vietnam. So one of the forms of groundbreaking work I've done is that for the last 20 years, I've been leading healing and reconciliation journeys to Vietnam for our veterans, for their spouses, for their widows, for their children, other family members, and for veterans of more recent wars who want the experience of being in reconciliation with a former foe of our country. They want to know how it works. They can't go to Iraq or Afghanistan. So they've come to Vietnam. So we can talk about that in a while. But back, winding the tape back a little bit, when I began this work, really, there was almost no literature on what we now understand as post-traumatic stress disorder in the psychological literature. During World War II, we had the diagnosis of combat fatigue, and during World War I, shell shock, but there was nothing since then. However, now I've become the expert and done this worldwide research. By now, we know that there were more than 80 different names throughout world history that their times and their cultures called something different, but it was what we would call post-traumatic stress disorder. It's in the Bible, both the Old and the New Testaments. It's in ancient Greek literature, ancient Roman literature and mythology. The traditional cultures of the world knew about it. Native American cultures knew about it. The Lakota people, the Sioux, called it Naginapeapi in their language, which doesn't mean post-traumatic stress disorder. It means the spirits left the warrior. The warrior is empty of spirit. And so in their tradition, their medicine people's job was to restore the warrior's spirit after return through their own ceremonies and rituals. I've studied with our Native Americans for over 30 years also, and I've been through their ceremonies and trained in them, so I know how to use those as well, with their blessing and permission only, of course. So we had no way for bringing our warriors home. I tried for the 70s until about for about 8 or 10 years. I tried the best traditional psychotherapy I possibly could give, and I began writing about the issue in the newspapers and popular media, and also professional literature. And after 10 years, I said, this isn't enough. It's not going to work. War is so horrible. The military experience transforms people so utterly. The civilian identity and personality and behavior and values are really taken apart. And even if you don't go to war, you become a different person in the military. So we have very complex, extensive ways for training people to be a military person and for preparing them to go to war. War is so much more horrible. So much more horrible than anybody imagines, and nobody can be prepared well enough for it. People change entirely through the experience, and then they come home, and in our country, well, you either go to the VA if you're broken down, or there's nothing else. You have your quick release from the military, and people really want to go home. So they're given questionnaires. Do you have any of these PTSD symptoms? Almost everybody checks no, because they want to get out and they want to go home. Because if they check yes, they'll be kept and retained and maybe put into a medical unit, and they don't want that. But besides that, there's no, what some of us in this field are calling reverse boot camps. We teach people how to go to war and be a good military member. Then we don't bring them home. And this is really wrong. And it's a national injury, and I would even say a sin against everybody who served. Because we do know that the military changes people and war utterly changes people. And around the world, from ancient times to the present, other cultures of other times and places have had profound and wise ways for bringing their warriors home. Even the Bible, listen to this, even the Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 20, for any of our serious people in religion, you don't have to be a religious person to study this, but chapter 20 in Deuteronomy is like a Geneva Convention of warfare. What you're allowed to do and what you should never do or have your warriors do ever, or else it's going to hurt them and hurt the other side in unfair ways. So there were rules against inhumane behavior in war that, of course, nobody's ever followed, but we've had them for thousands of years. Also in the Bible, for example, and I use this one, Moses ordered all ancient Israeli troops who were away on every single battle. When they came back, they had to spend a full week outside of their village in a separate camp with their priests and priestesses going through ritual for forgiveness and purification ceremonies. And they had to purify themselves and their weapons and everything they were carrying, or they couldn't go home because they would be bringing the war home. It had to be taken out of them. So traditional cultures and ancient cultures knew and understood this. And there are really worldwide extensive rituals for taking the war out of people. I've been studying and practicing them all these 40 years. I work with the Native Americans. I travel to Vietnam where, oh my gosh, post-traumatic stress disorder and moral injury are epidemic in our country, even though the war was over there, even though we killed and injured so many more people than we lost. There's no long-term chronic wartime PTSD in Vietnam. It doesn't exist there, except in very, very rare, severe cases in psychiatric hospitals, very few. They're okay, they're happy. Their country is still damaged from the war, but the people aren't. And they're completely welcoming, accepting, loving of us and forgiving of Americans. How did they do this? We need to know how they did it. They need help with physical recovery, so we do that. And that helps heal Americans' moral injury. And they need help rebuilding their infrastructure and healing their environment and help with their Agent Orange victims. So we give them that, and they give us welcome and forgiveness and healing and love. And everybody benefits.
It sounds like what we did with Japan after Japan dropped a couple of bombs on us, especially Pearl Harbor. Then we turned around and dropped a couple of bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it's, Japanese, the Japanese weren't angry after a while. It's like they were forgiving, and we came over and helped them. That's what it almost sounded like.
That's similar. That's a good point. Similar after World War II, also with our Marshall Plan. Actually, the world still loves us for rebuilding it after World War II. And let's not comment on modern politics, but we're losing we are losing some of that goodwill. And my friends and colleagues in Europe are warning us about that. We still love you. You saved us after World War II. After war, if we become friends and rebuild and help each other heal, then it doesn't go on and on and on forever. And we can stop it. So Americans and Germans, Americans and Japanese have significantly reconciled since the end of World War II. It took them a long time, but now even some of their groups of elderly veterans sometimes get together at Pearl Harbor or in Europe, on the battlefields of Europe. And it's so beautiful when these 80 and 90-year-old men hug each other and forgive each other and laugh at, and in Vietnam, they say this, we do the same and we same thing. Ha ha, it's a good thing you were such a bad shot so we could live to this distant day to forgive each other and become friends. That's what happens in Vietnam also.
That's rather interesting. I can imagine one of them saying, yeah, you almost missed me, but I almost missed you back. That's what it sounded like. You can just live the talk about. It's like, hey, that time you try to shoot it, bounce off here or something like that. But I was just thinking about this too. You talked about the lines like with working with the Vietnam veterans and everything else. And what's it like working free, like say with the ones that were in the Gulf War and also in Afghanistan and the other wars? What was a challenge just as great as trying to help the Vietnam veterans? Was it just the same, or was it less, or was it worse?
Thank you. It's a wonderful question, and our veterans need the public to know answers to these matters. So it's complex for a lot of reasons, right? There's no draft. So everybody who's gone to Iraq or Afghanistan or in the Gulf War or Bosnia and those wars, or in our secret operations now, they all volunteered to go in the military, but they weren't necessarily for patriotic reasons, and it wasn't necessarily to serve in these wars. Some did for sure. After 9/11, we had a flood of enlistees who were volunteering to protect our country, and they really were frightened of an invasion. So one of the Marines I worked with, who was a neighbor, he was the first person to enlist in the Marine Corps the night of 9/11. He stood in front of the Marine recruiting office all night. He's from Connecticut because he wanted to be first because he was so upset. But bless him, he was sure that the terrorists were going to be parachuting onto his house in rural Connecticut and attacking his family that night.
Oh my gosh.
That's what 9/11 meant to some of our people and how frightened they were. So some people sign up for patriotic reasons to protect the country. A lot of people, and we need to know this too, lots of people sign up for the military because there are no jobs, because they come from rural environments and there's no other way to get out, because they come from the inner cities and they've already survived a lot of violence in the streets and there's no other way to get out, because they want to go to college and they can't afford it because college has become insanely expensive and the military will give benefits. And to get out of abusive homes and family relationships. I work with, and my wife is also a therapist who specializes in working with women veterans. We've both worked with so many women veterans who said, I joined the military to get away from my rapist abuser husband. Who was
I heard about that. Yes.
Sex on me. I thought I would be safer in the military, even if they sent me to war, than, in Harlem or in an abusive family. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of reasons. That's one of what that makes it really difficult. Secondly, the public is wrong when they tell people, well, you signed up, so you knew what you were getting into. Nobody knows what they're getting into when they go to war. Nobody. The public needs to be incredibly more compassionate to what war does to people. They really need help coming home. All right. Another reason it's different and harder is because not all, but very, very many have served multiple tours. So I work, right? So I work with people who have been on 2, 3, 4, 5 tours to Bosnia, then Iraq, then Afghanistan. Oh, this is very interesting. I won't answer it, but one of the main military chaplains that I've worked with over the years just signaled me while we're talking about the help, the ongoing help that they need right now for the young vets.
Oh, wow. Okay. He must be listening in. That's good. So
that's right. I'll make sure he gets a copy of this, my friend.
Sounds good.
Multiple tours are horrible. And our special forces, people don't know this either. They can be sent on as many multiple tours as the government wants to send them to. I've worked with people who've been on more than a dozen overseas tours who don't get any rest time in between the tours.
Wow.
Special forces, you're supposed to be able to handle it. You're a sniper. We need you here. We need you there. We need you there. We're sending you to Africa, then to Bosnia, then to Afghanistan, then back to Iraq, then to Afghanistan again. I worked with a sniper who served 16 deployments.
Oh my gosh. Sounds
with
like
only a few weeks in between. You can't imagine, poor guy, how they say, how jacked up he was and how he could not calm down. So these are incredibly challenging people to help and help them bring home. With all that said, everybody needs to know this too. They wanted to serve, even if they didn't like where they were serving or what they had to do. And even if they end up not believing in the war or having moral injury or feeling like they did something that they wish they hadn't done and it was wrong, they still really love our country, and it does not break their loyalty to this country. And they end up saying, like the Vietnamese, I don't have any quarrel with the people I had to fight. They were defending their homes and their families. I don't have any quarrel with the other warriors I had to fight with. The only people I have a quarrel with is our government, if I think they did something wrong sending me, or the way they've brought me back and not brought me back and given me the real help that I need. So that's a long answer. It is. And most Vietnam veterans, there are a few multiple tour Vietnam vets. So I've worked with some who had 2 tours, a couple who had 3, but not who had 5 or 6 or 8 or 10.
Wow.
No, that didn't happen in Vietnam.
Even
goodness. Lifers who were signed up for life never had more than a couple of tours over there.
That is something too. And you also took all this, you also put them into books as well. I love all your stories, and they're also in the books as well. We'll talk about your books as well too. Warriors Return, War in the Soul, The Practice of a Dream Healer, and also your latest book, Coming Home in Vietnam. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and even endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today of Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 30 podcast platforms. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great merchandise, books, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you give generously today. We're here with a psychotherapist, international activist, and recognized educator and award-winning writer and expert on Vietnam veterans, survivor activists, and also pilgrims, Dr. Edward Tick on the Mike Wagner Show. And he's got a new book called Coming Home in Vietnam, the first major poetry collection. He's also got Warriors Return, War and the Soul, and the Practice of Dream Healing. And let's talk about your previous 3 before we talk about your new book. They sound amazing.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll skip dream healing for a minute. So as we shared, I have been working with our military and veterans for over 40 years, and I've done extraordinary amounts of, travel overseas, travel all over this country, pilgrimage of my own to really, really understand with my whole mind, heart, and soul the issues that our warriors face and how to work on them and heal them. And also studying the literature of war from all times and places I possibly could for all of these 40 years. Mm-hmm. So and as you pointed out, looking for innovative and holistic practices that really help our warriors and can successfully bring them home. So with all that, I've written lots of professional and popular public articles about this stuff as well. And so finally, and I'm skipping a dream healing book. In 2005, my book War and the Soul came out. War and the Soul and Warriors Return was a follow-up in 2014. So I kept doing the research and expanding the practices. So the two together present a fully holistic understanding of post-traumatic stress disorder and moral injury, not only our modern psychological understanding, which mostly attributes the injuries to what's being called broken brain, to brain chemistry. And there are many techniques now that do help repair the brain and the way it was damaged from trauma. So that's going on, and a lot of people are doing that work. So I didn't specialize in that. I specialize in the emotional, cultural, psychological, and spiritual dimensions of the invisible wounds. And I've been researching and traveling all over the world to understand how other cultures around the world today and of other times and places respond to their warriors and to war wounds, and putting together a full comprehensive model for how we can heal it. So War and the Soul and Warriors Return both present that. And humbly I say that War and the Soul is like my Iliad. What is the inner world of the combat survivor like? Mm-hmm. I refer to poetry and the literature of the world about war, not just psychological dimensions. And you're right, I tell lots and lots and lots of stories. Really, I learned this with our warriors first. Reading is second. So there are lots of stories from our warriors and demonstrations from all over the world about what is the inner world of a combat survivor really like? And if we really understand that, what do we have to do to really bring them home success and heal successfully? And how have other cultures and times and places done it? And Warriors Return is the follow-up, focusing even more extensively on the worldwide practices for bringing warriors home and how we can use them here in America in our modern times with our own, worldview and values. So some people will go on vision quests and climb mountains. One of my women Afghanistan veterans literally last week just came down from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And she did that as a healing pilgrimage. And she reports that she literally prayed every step of the way up the mountain. And as she was going halfway up the mountain, she finally said to herself, oh, there are things that are harder than combat. And I'm doing one right now. And if I can get through combat and I can get to the top of this mountain, then I can come home. Because I'm going up there to talk to God. And when I get up there, I'll be as close to God as a human being can get. And I'll have conquered my own fears and weaknesses. And I believe that I can receive a blessing and come home. And
wow.
She did it. And she's a different person for having gone to war. She's also a different person for having climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. And I wish everybody could see the strength and the energy and the pride in this woman now. So that's just one example. I could give many, many more. I've been trained and initiated with Native American elders. And so I do know how they use, and I've guided people on reservations in their communities. So we've guided our warriors, Native warriors and non-Native warriors, in their sweat lodges and vision quests and their talking circles and other Native practices. Going to Vietnam with my new book, Warriors Return and War in the Soul, are prose, nonfiction, really explaining this material. And War in the Soul did win several awards, the best book of the year in psychology from Forward magazine and a few others. So it did get some significant, it had significant impact. And the military, that's how the military found me and asked me to work with them through my books.
Wow.
So they do use War in the Soul and Warriors Return in our chaplaincy schools and in their military healing facilities. And they pass the books out because they really do give guidance for how to come home and heal.
Wow.
After those two books, so then one of my main practices has been leading healing and reconciliation journeys back to Vietnam, which I've been doing for 20 years. And I only stopped because of the pandemic, because none of us could travel. And I can't wait to start it again. So I've been to Vietnam 19 times in the last 20 years. And I've brought not only Vietnam veterans, but as I said, sandbox veterans, Iraq and Afghanistan and special operations veterans, and family members and young people. And we work with the Vietnamese and work with their healing practices as well. So the Vietnamese are Buddhists. There's much more to Vietnam than that. But as I said, they have almost no PTSD or moral injury there. And so we study why. We practice reconciliation with them. We get together with their groups. And I run reconciliation groups between our veterans and their veterans. And often people who fought against each other in the same battles are sitting in the same groups, laughing and crying together about it. I have them write poetry, and the Vietnamese, it's a very literate country. So they're already poets. And we translate the poems into both languages. And before you know it, the Americans are grabbing the Vietnamese veteran poems and saying, that's my story. I got to read it in my language. And the Vietnamese veterans are doing the same thing. You wrote my poem. I'm going to read your poem in my language.
Oh, my gosh.
And then they say, oh, my God. By the end, I'm going to tear up when I say this, Mike. By the end of these meetings, they say, these are quotes from them. We are not enemies. We are brothers and sisters. who survived the same hell. That's one quote.
Oh, yes.
Another quote, from now on and forevermore, Vietnamese and American veterans have to be the lips and the tongue of the same mouth telling the world the same story.
Mm-hmm.
I could go on like that, but these are examples of the extraordinary forgiveness and reconciliation that happens, and where warriors of the world enter into a shared identity. Mm-hmm. We are warriors. We're all warriors. We all try to do right by our country, whether we believed in it or not at the time. We did what our country asked us to do. We showed up. We did the hardest things, and we deserve honor and respect and support for it. And the Vietnamese give that to our warriors more than America has given it to our Vietnam veterans.
That is interesting.
Say, yeah, you couldn't come home in America. Well, please come home here.
Mm-hmm.
So there we are. The practice of dream healing is partially about war healing, and the first chapter very much is. And I began taking pilgrimages and leading pilgrimages to Greece, also to study the Greek warrior tradition and how did they help their warriors, because they had so many wars in the past and ever since. So I studied that over there, and I use Greek traditions and practices as well. And I've been in Greece twice on Veterans Day with groups of veterans practicing ancient Greek war healing traditions on Veterans Day for our warriors. And it's incredible when we help our warriors learn that there is a worldwide warrior tradition, that it's been here forever. This is not an American issue, though our wars and our politics are American, but not being a warrior and not warrior traditions. And we can learn these other traditions and we can carry them with honor and dignity. We can use them on you, our warriors, and you can come home and heal this way. And Scouts Honor, they do. They really do. And they become strong, healthy. They join society again. They become elder warriors who have very, very much to give back.
Wow.
Many of them become counselors and therapists themselves, specializing in trauma treatment. What do you know? Very many of them become first responders.
Amazing.
And I also work with first responders and teach that they're also warriors. They're doing on the front lines for us what warriors do. They run into danger to protect the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Blessedly, they are not sent in to take life. They're sent in to protect life. Sometimes our police force has to use deadly force, but it's for protection, not to conquer. So,
right, yes. Mm-hmm.
So very many military veterans go into first responder work because it's the only thing they find that's continuous with their military service.
Mm-hmm. And that's very true as well, too. And where can we find Warriors Return, War in the Soul, and the practice of dream healing at?
They're all on Amazon. That's the easiest. You can go to the publisher, of course. They're on the publisher's websites. They're on my websites as well. But the easiest thing, most people go to Amazon and get the discount.
Okay.
Honestly, for the public, buying from Amazon does not hurt the writer, because Amazon does sell more books. The discount comes because Amazon, they eliminate the middlemen. So it actually hurts bookstores.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you know that, well, of course, you know, we say about Amazon as well, too. And we'll talk about Coming Home in Vietnam, talk more about it in just 1 minute with author Edward Tick. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international war-ring author Mia Molson-Zia Missing, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. We'll be back with psychotherapist, international activist, and award-winning author Edward Tick of Coming Home in Vietnam after this time out.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Ray Powers, and boy, are you in luck. Right place, right time. Tuned in to the Mike Wagner Show. You heard me.
We're back with author Edward Tick of Coming Home in Vietnam here on the Mike Wagner Show. Learned a lot from you, Dr. Ed, and of course your amazing stories about healing, coming together and everything, and Coming Home in Vietnam, first major poetry collection. Maybe I think we just cover some of it, and maybe just a bit more to add as well too, and why it's so important as well.
Sure. Do we have time for a poem?
Absolutely. I love poems. Oh my
All
gosh.
right, well,
that's the first time I've ever been asked, do you have time for poetry? I always have time for poetry. And I love it when people ask me that. Sure. Go ahead.
Bless you, Mike. And please do everything you can to have poets on and help the American audience appreciate poetry again.
I think I'm ready to get my slippers, get my robe, and get a pipe and a little bit of cognac and ready to go. So here we go.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Well, I'll choose a shorter poem because our time is limited, but this will also illustrate some of the stories that happen during these healing journeys, the stories people will receive reading the book, and how the horror happens in the war and the healing happens by going back and coming home. All right. So this poem is called Praying. The backstory is, I wrote a lot of these poems in first person. So some of them are my experiences going back, but I also wrote first person as if I'm a Vietnamese person telling my story, or as if I'm an American veteran telling my story. So this is first person in the words of an American veteran. This man went over when he was 18. He literally turned 19 on the day of the battle that occurred in this poem. So he turned 19 in horrible combat.
Wow.
He survived the battle. He and his unit killed 300 enemies who were mounting a suicide charge against their unit. They dug a mass grave and pushed all the dead bodies into the grave. Mm-hmm. We went back he wanted to go back to Vietnam with me because he did have PTSD and moral injury from this and other events. And he had nightmares about those bodies. And he heard in his nightmares, he heard the dead crying to him and screaming to him, return us, we want to go home.
Wow.
So he wanted to go back and find the mass grave and give it back to the Vietnamese people. And we did. All right. So this poem is called Praying. The first stanza is during the battle when he's 19. The second stanza is when we went back after we gave the grave back to the Vietnamese. Mm-hmm. Praying. So imagine a 19-year-old just trying to survive in a horrible battle. Never in my life did I pray so hard as that day at the smoking bottom of this mountain, among giant boulders and fallen trees, when the enemy overran our wire and sprouted like berserk rice stalks, no farther away than the length of my rifle, and our muzzle holes became God's wrathful eyes.
Wow.
Never in my life did I pray so hard until today, on the cloud-crowned top of this mountain, among smiling statues and wafting incense, when their children took my hands and called me uncle, and their monks bowed to me as if I were a saint, and I embraced their dead as my true brothers, and God's loving eyes gazed through my torn and mending heart.
Wow.
After story. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Amazing.
The after story. After he went back with me, we did find the grave, as you hear. We did return it to the Vietnamese. He was terrified the Vietnamese were going to throw him in prison.
Oh, my.
The villagers loved him. They hugged him. They brought their babies. He said, I'm not worthy to hold your children. And he said, yes, you are. You've returned our ancestors to us. You have to hug my baby and bless them for me, please. Wow. So we did. Then we went up to the top of the mountain where there was a Buddhist pagoda. And the Buddhist monks did treat him this way. And they did a ceremony where they blessed him and cleansed him of his sin. And they pray and they did the ceremony for the souls of all the dead from that day. Then we came home, and this man who had been severe PTSD, his nightmares stopped. Oh, they went home. They went home. They're not my brain anymore. After that, he went back to Vietnam on his own 3 times. He met a woman, fell in love, married her. Now he lives, your book is in several countries. Well, so is my book in several countries. Now this veteran lives both in Vietnam and America, supports this woman and her family back in Vietnam. They consider themselves Vietnamese American, and their marriage and family is like a healing bridge between our 2 countries.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wow. Oh my gosh.
This is the book. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Coming Home in Vietnam. That's right. And where can we find Coming Home in Vietnam at, Dr. Red?
It is on Amazon now. Just about 2 weeks on, but this is newly published, so it's on Amazon. You could also get it. My website is mentorthesoul.guide is my website. You could get it that way. I'm also continue to do charity projects in Vietnam. People could help out with that if they want.
Mm-hmm.
Or the publisher is Tia Chucha, TIA, new word, CHUCHA. So Tia Chucha Press. You can get it on their website as well.
Okay. We will certainly check that out. Once again, we're with author Dr. Edward Tick of Coming Home in Vietnam here on the Mike Wagner Show. You've been absolutely amazing, Dr. Edward. Very big thank you for your time. Love to have you back on. And what else can we expect from you in 2022 and beyond, Dr. Ed?
Well, thank you. I hope I'll see you again. I have another book coming out at the end of this year called The Future of Ancient Healing. In addition to working in Vietnam and leading pilgrimages there, I also work and lead pilgrimages to Greece and use the ancient Greek tradition, as I shared about warriors, but not only about warriors. So that earlier book, The Practice of Dream Healing, is about the origin of psychology, psychiatry, and psychotherapy in ancient Greece, where it comes from, how we can use it today. And then I have a nonfiction book coming out the end of this year called The Future of Ancient Healing, which is, again, my next book on using the ancient Greek tradition for our healing.
We certainly will be looking forward to that, Dr. Red. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
My biggest influence?
Yes, in your career.
The warriors. The people who have done this, who have lived it, who welcomed me as a brother, initiated me into their world. we do the writing to do everything we can to serve human life together. It's the warriors. It's us together is what matter and what the books are about. So I could talk to you for hours about the influential books. It's the people who have had the courage to walk this path and bring hope and healing to all of us.
That is certainly amazing. A lot of help from friends really does help a lot. That's so amazing. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Oh my gosh. To our warriors, don't believe that you can't heal and come home. You can. Warriors of any time of service, any war, you don't have to be at war, and your loved ones, your spouses, your children, your family members, there is healing and there is homecoming. And to all the civilians, they can't come home without us. It takes us all. Don't just turn them over to the VA and the professionals. Healing happens through spirituality in community.
Mm-hmm. And that's very important as well, too. Once again, author Dr. Edward Tick of Coming Home in Vietnam here on the Mike Wagner Show. Dr. Ed, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date, keep in touch. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects, what's your website, how do people contact you, where can people purchase or check out your books?
Okay, all of my books are on Amazon or with the publisher. I have an author's website, which is simply edwardtick.com, my name.com. For my practice, the Overseas Journeys to Greece, my therapy work, all of my books and other writings, and your wonderful podcast will be on my website as soon as I get it. Thank you, Mike. That website is called mentorthesoul.guide. Mentorthesoul.guide. Mm-hmm. Want my phone number?
well, we can get that later too.
Yeah, they're also. It's on the website. People can contact me through the website.
Sounds good. Once again, Dr. Ed, a very big thank you for your time. You've been totally amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We look forward to having you back. We wish you all the best. You've got a great future ahead of you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Bless you for all the good work you're doing.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamoshenzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartradio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.